パン三世ついに映画化。制作費5億をかけて描く世界初のアニメビジョン、ルパン対クローン、世界史を塗り替えるのはどっちだ。
Between the sound of a devil's bell calls for Lupin and a trap for a trap, Lupin III, The Mystery of Mamo, or The Secret of Mamo, or just simply Lupin III when it first released in Japanese theatres on the 16th of December 1978, now titled in Japan as Lupin vs. the Clone. So we discover Lupin is well hung and everyone believes so apart from Pops, who goes off to finish the job, only to discover that Lupin is in fact alive and full of vigor. What the fuck did I just write? Anyway, the thief goes off to Egypt along with Jigen and Goemon to steal the Philosopher's Stone. Fujiko, with the promise of a potential date, double-crosses Lupin and steals the stone for a mysterious man named Mamo, who promises her eternal life and beauty, a point that Pops foreshadows in the beginning of the movie. Fujiko, in typical Fujiko fashion, continues to betray Lupin, leading to Jigen and Goemon splitting up out of frustration. But there's far more trouble afoot as Mamo is planning on taking over the world that he spent too many years planning, and he wants Fujiko to be part of his world domination. It's up to Lupin to put a stop to this grey bloke's nefarious plan. This movie is absolutely crazy, and for me, it's in the best way possible. First off, I came to this movie expecting something that would be faithful to Monkey Punch's manga, as it can go all out with sex, violence, and that style you all know and love provided you read the manga. And for the most part, that's exactly what we get. The plot is a fun one, but does suffer from overambition in terms of plot, and the overall mystery, depending on how you like your Lupin, may either be unique and creative, or jumping the shark and sometimes making no sense even by Lupin's standards. But seeing previous episodes of Part 2 makes the jump in the shark argument useless, and that's okay with me. I like the plot for trying to do something new with what the franchise had to offer at the time. Mostly with the main villain Mamo, a very short, very grey man who leaves you wondering throughout the viewing of the movie what he even is, and given the Japanese title, yeah, I'm not surprised Japanese fans don't like the current title. And as for the third act, it ain't perfect, but it's a wild ride and entertaining regardless. I feel the only thing that could be considered dated is some Cold War metaphors. Ah, remember when that was a thing? Hello Henry Kissinger reference. The characters are great. If you know how the main characters function, you're gonna have a good time, but if you don't, well, not to worry, because you'll know how they function throughout. The subplot involving Jigen and Goemon telling Lupin to bugger off because of Fujiko would have been strong character writing, and to be fair, it kind of is. But if you have some background of the series beforehand, you know that rift will sort itself out by the end, so it's not as interesting as I really wanted it to be, but that's just me. Then again, you could say that for all the main characters. You sort of know how it's going to conclude, but it's not about the destination, but the journey to get there, and the journey is adventurous and never misses a beat, as in it's not boring, unlike a certain live-action adaptation I covered a while back. But what I have to personally praise is its character design and art style. Basically, take the pilot film and give it a budget, and some time before Lupin's escapades could be acceptable to a wider audience. Yuzo Oki was the character designer, and he ends up being as faithful to the designs as he could, and I love it. I look forward to his future stuff with the series, most particularly Part 3. The animation at times looks very limited, even for a movie of its time, but I like it. It makes up for it with sheer style. It does some stuff that looks cool and artsy. You could take some screenshots of some scenes and they'd be perfect PC wallpapers. There's a video by TRR where he talks about the unique ways the animators went about using their limitations to their advantage for this movie. A short 7-minute video, but well worth the watch. I love the style of this movie. It's my favourite in terms of how the world of Lupin III should look. It makes it stand out from other Lupin material at that point. Sometimes having a good sense of style can save an animation that's lacking. It can be considered a product of its time though, but that's its charm and I'm all for it. Also, this image appears in the movie. I've seen it many times on the net and I didn't realise this originated in this film. Maybe Lupin III is considered a member of the Justice League, though it has to be the Unlimited group since Lupin's country of origin is not America, and given Kato's last art pieces were apparently DC superheroes in his style, I'd say there's something fitting about it. The music is great, composed by Yuji Ono, who would go on to compose for Part 2 and onwards. So this is his first theatrical soundtrack for The Thief, though if you watch Part 2, you'll hear some familiar tracks, so keep that in mind. The Mystery of Mamo is the Lupin III movie that captures the spirit of the manga. TMS was finally able to do something they've always wanted to make since the late 60s. It's not a perfect movie. I feel it could have simplified the plot a little to avoid the notion of it's not as epic as the film thinks it is. But I had so much fun watching it that I can forgive its mishaps. It's a nice looking flick even with its limited animation. The ideas it presents are bonkers but presented in a way that is interesting and out there. This is a movie I've watched 3 times already and it's become one of my favourite movies. I highly recommend this movie. Give it a watch. Between the airing of the Operation Nameless Chushingura and Stray Picture, The Secret of the First Supper, The Castle of Cagliostro was released on the 15th of December 1979, and was not only the second theatrically animated Lupin the Third film, but was the directorial theatrical debut of Hayao Miyazaki. Lupin and Jigen rob a casino and leave with a huge amount of cash, which Lupin has to throw away due to them being counterfeit. This leads Lupin to go to the source of the fake money, the European nation of Cagliostro. Upon arriving, he finds a young girl being chased and Lupin follows suit. This is Clarice di Cagliostro, the princess of a country, forced to marry Count Cagliostro against her will. Lupin is being vague about Clarice to the frustration of Jigen. Our friendly thief is our knight in shining armor as his goal is to rescue Clarice from the clutches of the villainous Count Cagliostro. This movie would use plot points from a couple of books. The fake money notes plot point was taken from the Justice of Arsène Lupin by this person's name, and a secret treasure hidden at the bottom of a lake was taken from Maurice Leblanc, the Green-Eyed Lady. These inspirations certainly give the movie a classic book feel that makes the movie stand out from anything else Lupin the Third at that point. So, I've never seen a movie where I love it, but also hate it at the same time, and by the way, I watched the movie twice. First off, I love The Castle of Cagliostro. It's an upbeat, energetic flick that has good pacing, exciting action, a nice simple plot, and the animation is absolutely stellar. This is Miyazaki's debut, and he absolutely hits it out of the park first time round, and he would only get better. Pops is here, and to my surprise, he's the best character in this movie on the basis that he's a competent inspector. He's not the constant butt of the joke whenever he makes an appearance. It's like a breath of fresh air given the amount of episodes I've seen in part 2. Can we just talk about the animation in more detail because it still holds up today? I love the backgrounds done in this film. Miyazaki loves to have worlds that make you want to live in it. It gives me comfort watching this movie because of the world Miyazaki created, and he will continue to do that for future films. I also love the look of The Mystery of Mamo as well, but that feels more like a comic book come into life. Absolutely nothing wrong with that, by the way. But Cagliostro feels like a classic painting come to life that the animated characters can interact in. I praise both in those aspects, but for different reasons. There's a lot of detail in the action scenes. The car chase will never get old for me. The battle with the ninjas is fun and silly. Lupin dropping down a hole still impresses me even now, and Lupin's final battle against Count Cagliostro is the pure definition of classic. Speaking of which, Count Cagliostro is a great villain to hate. He's creepy towards Clarice, but never goes too far. You're in safe hands with Miyazaki after all. He's simply in it for power, and anyone who tries to mess with him disappears into the hole. Whilst he is the generic villain like others in part 2, it works here because he gets more screen time and thus ends up being more memorable by default. The music is once again composed by Yuji Ono. We get some original tracks I have yet to hear in part 2 and they're great. I say this because Mamo took a lot of tracks from part 2 with very few original tracks, and whilst Cagliostro took tracks from part 2 as well, it took far less and they fit the specific scenes when used. Though I do prefer Mamo's soundtrack, but that doesn't really matter anyway. So yeah, I really like this movie. But I also don't like it either. This isn't what I deem to be a proper Lupin the Third movie. It has none of the edge or the cool factor that is in this series' DNA. It's also way too safe and peppy to be something from this series. In terms of characters, Lupin is way too nice and heroic. His down bad energy is now resorted to light teasing. Jigen's so mellowed that he's not even the same guy to the point where he ends up being forgettable. Heck, I felt Kiyoshi Kobayashi had to downplay his usual gruff performance to make it fit Miyazaki's image. Goemon is there? He doesn't really do much until the end, but Miyazaki did what Jigen couldn't do and sent Fujiko to the streets and replaced her with a kid-friendly version. I mean, what is this G.I. Joe shit she's wearing? It's more funny than annoying, so I'll see the lighter side of this. The character designs are quite nice. You can tell these are Miyazaki designs, but it will never be my favourite art style involving Lupin. If the thief isn't a lanky cartoon character like in previous entries like Mamo, it's not Lupin to me. Clarice is the generic and bland damsel in distress, just there to look cute and is the grandmother of the moe character design. Yup, all those typical cute anime girls you see in anime possibly goes all the way back to Clarice. Between this and Sailor Mass's shower scene in Mobile Suit Gundam 3 Encounters in Space, possibly popularizing hentai, two anime legends will continue to kick themselves for birth in the current otaku culture we have today. I swear Miyazaki made this movie the way it is on purpose, with Lupin being much older and realizing he's not invincible, trying to give him more depth, making him more human, and that's fine and all, but Lupin III to me is how Mamo portrays the series as a cool, stylish, edgy, and experimental fare, kind of what Kato's manga was, and for as over the top, crass, and dark as it got, that's where Lupin works best, and it feels like Miyazaki is spitting in the face of Kato as a result. By the way, this is an overreaction, these are my feelings about the movie. And even he didn't like this interpretation of Lupin back in the day, with him saying that if he made the film, Lupin would have raped Clarice. Well, now I'm curious about Dead or Alive. But ignore that quote because it was false. He did change his opinion later on, saying that he likes the movie but only from a distance, and I find that quite relatable. I feel my true issue is that Lupin III outside of Japan and in some places in Europe is such a niche series. Most people only watch this movie and enjoy it because Miyazaki was involved in it. No one would care otherwise. When people enjoy this movie, then find more Lupin III material, especially the manga, how do you think people are gonna feel about it? Oh yeah, I watched a movie where Lupin saves a young girl in order to gain her freedom from a power-hungry bad guy. Let me read the manga where Lupin kills people, shags all the bitches, and has a flashy car to show off his professional street nigga status. To those who know people who like this film but want to get into the series, tell them to watch The Mystery of Mamo, and if they like it, tell them to watch or read whatever they want, but if they don't, this series isn't for them. Stick to Cagliostro. Again, while I may not like the movie for straying from what made Lupin III interesting to me in many ways, I do also like the movie as is and when I can judge it as its own movie. It's a fun trip that I could watch again when I'm in the mood for it. But wherever you're a Lupin fan or not, I do recommend both watching Mamo and Cagliostro to see which one you like. They're both good films, but Cagliostro is still a great movie, but not what I'm looking for in Lupin III.